The unassuming genius Fiona Mercer tucked a strand of auburn hair behind her ear as she adjusted the microscope in the Parker family's basement. The clock on the wall read 11:30 p.m., 3 hours since she had put the Parker children to bed. 3 precious hours to work on her project. Just a little more time, she whispered to herself, carefully positioning the filter membrane she had designed. At 28, Fiona hadn't expected to be working as a nanny for one of San Francisco's wealthiest families. With a master's degree in environmental engineering from Stanford, she had envisioned herself in a laboratory or at an innovation hub, not reading bedtime stories and making peanut butter sandwiches. The economic downturn had hit the tech sector hard. After 76 rejection letters, Fiona had seen the Parkers' advertisement for a live-in nanny and swallowed her pride. The position came with a small room above the garage and access to a fully equipped workshop in the basement, though the Parkers didn't know she used it. Mr. Parker, a venture capitalist, had set it up for his own tinkering but rarely found the time. During the day, Fiona was completely devoted to 8-year-old Olivia and 6-year-old Thomas. She taught them science through experiments in the kitchen, mathematics through baking, and literature through dramatic readings. Mrs. Parker, Vanessa, was always rushing between charity events and social obligations, while Mr. Parker, Daniel, spent most of his time at the office. "The filtration system is almost there," Fiona muttered, making notes in her worn notebook. Her invention, a revolutionary water purification system that removed microplastics and chemical contaminants without requiring electricity, had been her passion project since graduate school. What made it special was its simplicity and affordability, something that could be deployed in developing countries without infrastructure. The basement door creaked, and Fiona froze. "Hello? Is someone down there?" Daniel Parker's voice echoed down the stairs. Fiona hastily covered her work with a cloth. "Just me, Mr. Parker. I couldn't sleep and was just reading." Daniel appeared at the bottom of the stairs in his pajama bottoms and a Stanford t-shirt, looking puzzled. "At midnight? In the workshop?" He approached her workbench, and before she could stop him, lifted the cloth. His eyes widened at the intricate system of tubes, filters, and notes spread across the table. "What is this?" he asked, not angry but curious. Fiona's heart pounded. I'm sorry for using your workshop without permission. I can explain." Daniel studied the diagrams and prototype. "This looks like a filtration system of some kind." He looked up at her with newfound interest. "You're not just a nanny, are you, Ms. Mercer?" Fiona took a deep breath. "I have a master's in environmental engineering. The nanny position was temporary until the job market improved. And this?" He gestured to her work. "It's a water purification system that can remove microplastics and chemical contaminants without electricity. I've been working on it for years." Daniel's expression changed from curiosity to excitement. "This could be revolutionary for developing regions." He looked at her with new respect. "Why didn't you tell us about your background?" "I needed the job," Fiona said simply. "And I love Olivia and Thomas. They're wonderful children." Daniel picked up her notebook, flipping through pages of calculations and designs. "You know, my company invests in clean technology startups. This has potential." Fiona felt a flutter of hope for the first time in months. "Really? Really?" Daniel extended his hand. "I think it's time we had a proper conversation about your future, Ms. Mercer. One that doesn't involve making peanut butter sandwiches unless you want it to." Fiona smiled, shaking his hand firmly. "I'd like that very much, Mr. Parker." Neither of them realized that this midnight discovery would change both their lives forever and make them millions in the process. The midnight breakthrough the Parker household transformed over the next 3 months. The basement workshop, once Daniel's neglected hobby space, became Fiona's sanctuary with his enthusiastic blessing. Every evening after the children's bedtime, she descended the stairs, often joined by Daniel, who had taken an unprecedented interest in her work. "The problem is membrane degradation," Fiona explained one night, showing him the latest prototype. "These filters work beautifully for about 6 months. Then the organic compounds I'm using start to break down." Daniel leaned closer, his shoulder brushing against hers. "What about encapsulating the compounds in a silica matrix?" I invested in a nanotechnology company last year that was doing something similar. Their late-night collaboration had become the highlight of Fiona's days. Daniel wasn't just a venture capitalist with deep pockets. He possessed a genuine understanding of engineering principles and business, acumen that complemented her technical expertise. "I've never seen Daniel so excited about a project," remarked Vanessa one morning as she prepared for another charity luncheon. The comment seemed casual, but Fiona caught the slight furrow in her perfectly maintained brow. "He's been very supportive," Fiona replied carefully. "I'm grateful for the opportunity to use the workshop." Vanessa applied her lipstick with precision. "Just remember, your primary responsibility is to my children, Ms. Mercer." Despite the tension with Vanessa, Fiona's relationship with the Parker children deepened. Little Thomas had taken to calling her Professor Fiona after she explained her educational background, and Olivia had started sketching designs for inventions of her own. One stormy Tuesday night, while Daniel was away on a business trip, Fiona experienced her breakthrough. She had been reading research papers on biopolymers when inspiration struck. Using a combination of alginate extracted from seaweed and a particular strain of bacteria that produced natural cellulose, she created a living membrane that regenerated itself when exposed to sunlight. She worked through the night, forgetting time entirely. When the test results confirmed what she'd theorized, a self-healing filter that could last years instead of months, she burst into tears of joy. Her hands trembled as she dialed Daniel's number. "Forgetting it was 3:30 a.m.? Fiona?" His voice was thick with sleep. "Is everything okay?" "Are the kids?" "It works," she breathed. "The self-healing membrane. I've done it." There was a pause, then, "I'm catching the first flight home. By afternoon the next day." Daniel burst through the front door, bypassing his surprised wife to head straight for the basement. Vanessa followed, confusion evident on her face. "Show me," Daniel demanded, eyes bright with anticipation. Fiona demonstrated the prototype, explaining the biological mechanism that allowed the filter to regenerate. "This changes everything," Daniel whispered. "Do you realize what you've created? This isn't just a product for developing countries. This has applications everywhere. Municipal water systems, industrial waste management, consumer products. What exactly is happening here?" Vanessa asked from the stairway, arms crossed. Daniel turned to his wife, beaming. "Vanessa, Fiona has created something extraordinary, something that could help millions of people, and yes, make millions of dollars." "I see." Vanessa's gaze shifted between them, taking in their shared excitement and proximity. "And what does this mean for her position with our family?" The question hung in the air, reminding Fiona of her precarious situation. She was still the nanny despite these developments. Daniel straightened. "I think it's time we formalized a new arrangement. Fiona shouldn't just be our nanny anymore. She should be our business partner." Vanessa's eyebrows rose. "Partner? Daniel, we haven't discussed—" "I'll set up a meeting with Harold tomorrow," Daniel continued, referring to his lawyer. "We'll draw up patents, incorporation documents, everything." Fiona stood speechless, her life transforming before her eyes. From rejected job applicant to nanny to potential business partner with one of San Francisco's most influential families. That night, after the children were asleep, Fiona sat on her small bed above the garage, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow would begin a new chapter, exciting but frightening. The dynamics with Vanessa were complicated enough when she was just the nanny. As a business partner? She couldn't imagine how that would work. Her phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. "My brother Ethan is flying in tomorrow. He's our family's legal counsel and will help with the patents. You're going to like him." Fiona smiled, unaware that Ethan Parker would become another unexpected twist in her already complicated story. Boardroom battles the Parker Media headquarters occupied. The top 3 floors of a sleek high-rise overlooking the San Francisco Bay. Fiona smoothed down her newly purchased blazer, the first professional clothing she'd bought in over a year, as the elevator ascended to the executive floor. Beside her stood Daniel, projecting his usual confidence, and his brother Ethan, who had arrived 2 days ago from New York. Where Daniel was all charismatic energy, Ethan was measured calculation. His analytical mind had dissected her invention with precision, asking questions that impressed even Fiona. "You've created something remarkable," he had told her after reviewing her documentation. "And we need to protect it properly." The boardroom doors opened to reveal 5 men and 2 women in expensive suits, all executives of Parker Media's technology investment division. At the head of the table sat Vanessa, surprising Fiona with her presence. "Gentlemen, ladies," Daniel began, "I've brought you here to introduce both an extraordinary person and an extraordinary opportunity." As Daniel presented her concept to the board, Fiona watched their expressions shift from polite interest to genuine excitement. Her self-regenerating filter technology wasn't just innovative. It was revolutionary, capable of transforming water purification globally while generating substantial profits. "The patent application has already been filed," Ethan added, sliding documents across the table. "Ms. Mercer has assigned temporary rights to Parker Media while we establish a new corporate entity." "Temporary?" interrupted Jeffrey Willingham, the oldest board member. "Daniel, you're not suggesting we give ownership to the Nanny?" The word hung in the air like a slur. Fiona felt her cheeks burn. "Ms. Mercer is an environmental engineer with degrees from Stanford," Ethan corrected sharply. "And yes, she will maintain majority ownership of her intellectual property." "This is highly irregular," Willingham persisted. "Our standard procedure is to acquire technologies outright." "Standard procedure applies to standard technologies," Daniel replied. "This is anything but standard. And Ms. Mercer is anything but a standard inventor." Vanessa cleared her throat. "Perhaps we should discuss the domestic arrangements as well. Ms. Mercer's current employment contract has been rendered obsolete by these developments," Daniel finished. "We'll hire a new nanny. Ms. Mercer needs to focus on development." Fiona glanced at Vanessa, caught the flash of something. Anger? Resentment? Before the woman composed her features. "I'd like to continue working with Olivia and Thomas during the transition," Fiona offered. "They shouldn't feel abandoned." How considerate. Vanessa's tone was cool. "But unnecessary. I've already contacted an agency." The meeting continued with technical questions that Fiona answered with growing confidence. By the end, even Willingham seemed convinced, though reluctant to show it. As the board members filed out, Vanessa remained seated. "A moment, please, with my husband and Ms. Mercer." When they were alone, Vanessa's composure cracked slightly. "Daniel, you've committed significant company resources without consulting me." "It's a solid investment," Daniel defended. "Is it? Or is it something else?" Vanessa's gaze shifted to Fiona. "This arrangement seems complicated." Fiona straightened. "Mrs. Parker, I understand your concerns, but I assure you, my relationship with your husband is strictly professional." "Of course it is," Vanessa replied smoothly. "I'm simply concerned about boundaries. Yesterday a nanny, today a business partner. These transitions can be confusing. For everyone." The implication hung heavily in the air. "I think we're all professional enough to manage this transition," Daniel said firmly. Vanessa stood. "I hope so. For everyone's sake." She collected her belongings. "Ms. Mercer, your things have been packed and moved to the guest house. I thought you'd be more comfortable there than above the garage." After she left, Fiona released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "I'm sorry about that," Daniel said quietly. "Don't be. She's right to be concerned. This is unusual." "Unusual and valuable," came Ethan's voice from the doorway. He'd returned unnoticed. "The board is on board, despite Willingham's posturing. We're moving forward." "Thank you, Ethan," Fiona said sincerely. "For defending me," he smiled, a rare, genuine expression that transformed his serious face. "I recognize brilliance when I see it, Fiona. And I protect what matters." Something in his tone made her look at him more carefully. In Daniel, she had found a champion for her invention. In Ethan, she sensed something different, someone who might become a champion for her. As they left the boardroom, Fiona realized her life had irreversibly changed. The path ahead was uncertain, lined with both opportunity and complication. She was no longer just the nanny, but exactly what she was becoming remained to be seen. The betrayal and return. The guest house on the Parker estate became Fiona's haven and prison over the following weeks. With its own small kitchen, living room, and a dedicated office space, it offered her privacy she hadn't experienced since taking the nanny position. Yet she felt isolated, especially from the children, who now had a new nanny, an efficient, pleasant woman named Mrs. Winters, who seemed to run the household with military precision. Ethan had extended his stay in San Francisco, working closely with Fiona to navigate the complex patent process while establishing their new company, Pure Flow Technologies. Their working relationship evolved into friendship. During late nights reviewing documents and early morning coffee discussions about everything from classical literature to quantum physics. "You're nothing like I expected a corporate lawyer to be," Fiona told him one evening as they sat on her patio, watching the sunset over the Parker estate. Ethan laughed. "And you're nothing like I expected a nanny to be." "Ex-nanny," she corrected, feeling a pang of loss. She missed Thomas's endless questions and Olivia's creative energy. "They miss you too," Ethan said, reading her thoughts. "Olivia asked me yesterday if Professor Fiona would be teaching science again soon." The prototype development accelerated rapidly with Parker Media's resources. Within a month, they had a functioning production model and were preparing for a major presentation to potential manufacturing partners and distributors. Vanessa maintained a cool distance, but Daniel's enthusiasm never wavered. The night before the presentation, Fiona worked late in the new laboratory they had established in a Parker Media facility downtown. As she was about to leave, she noticed a figure in the shadows. "Hello?" she called, heart racing. "Just me," came a familiar voice. Jeffrey Willingham stepped into the light. "Working late, I see?" "Final preparations for tomorrow," Fiona explained, uneasy about his presence. "Did you need something, Mr. Willingham?" He approached her workstation, examining her prototype. Remarkable technology. So simple, yet so effective. He looked at her with calculating eyes. "Have you considered other offers, Ms. Mercer? Beyond the Parkers?" "What do you mean?" "I mean that perhaps your talents are being undervalued. I have connections who would pay significantly more for exclusive rights." Fiona stepped back. "My arrangement with the Parkers is already established." "Arrangements can be changed," he said smoothly, sliding a business card across the table. "Think about it. You could walk away with 10 times what they're offering." The next morning, Fiona arrived early at the presentation venue, her mind troubled by Willingham's approach. She was setting up when Daniel burst in, face tight with anger. "The prototype is gone," he said without preamble. "And the backup files have been corrupted." "What? How?" Fiona felt the floor tilt beneath her. "Someone accessed the lab last night after you left." Realization dawned. "Willingham. He was there when I was leaving. He offered me money to betray you." Daniel's expression darkened. "And did you take it?" The question hit Fiona like a physical blow. "How could you ask me that? Someone with your access took our most valuable asset the night before we present to investors. What am I supposed to think?" "You're supposed to trust me." Fiona felt tears burning. "After everything we've built, what's happening?" Ethan appeared at the door, sensing the tension immediately. Daniel explained the situation while Fiona stood there, hurt beyond words. "You can't seriously suspect Fiona," Ethan argued. "This has Willingham written all over it." "Then why was she meeting with him last night?" Daniel demanded. "I wasn't meeting him. He approached me. I declined his offer." Daniel ran a hand through his hair. "I need to salvage this presentation somehow. We'll discuss this later." After he left, Ethan turned to Fiona. "I believe you." "At least someone does," she said bitterly. "I can't stay here, Ethan. Not if Daniel thinks I'm capable of this. Don't make any decisions right now. Let me investigate." But Fiona had reached her breaking point. By evening, she had packed her belongings and left the Parker estate, leaving only a note. "I would never betray your family. Find Willingham. Find your proof." She rented a small apartment across the city and tried to rebuild her life, applying for engineering positions with her newly relevant experience. 3 weeks passed without contact from the Parkers, confirming her belief that they had written her off as a traitor. Then came the knock on her door. She opened it to find Ethan, looking exhausted but triumphant. "We got him," he said simply. Willingham was working with Hydrotech. We have everything on record. His approach to you, the theft, all of it. Daniel knows? Daniel led the investigation once I showed him the security footage of Willingham approaching you. He never believed you betrayed us, Fiona. He was angry and spoke without thinking. Relief flooded through her, followed by lingering hurt. He could have trusted me from the start. Yes, he could have. Ethan took her hand. We have the prototype back. The presentation has been rescheduled, but more importantly, the family misses you. I miss you. Fiona looked into his eyes and saw something she hadn't allowed herself to notice before. I missed you too. Come back, he said softly. Not as the nanny, not just as a business partner, but as someone who belongs with us. With me. The words hung between them, full of possibility. Fiona thought of the unlikely journey that had brought her here. From desperate job seeker to nanny to inventor to... Whatever came next, I'll come back, she decided. But on my terms this time, Ethan smiled. I wouldn't have it any other way. Partners in life and business, the grand ballroom of the San Francisco Mercer Hotel, no relation to Fiona, though the coincidence amused her, sparkled with champagne glasses and the subtle gleam of wealth. 1 year had passed since the formation of Pure Flow Technologies, and tonight marked the official launch of their consumer product line after successful implementations in 3 developing countries. Fiona adjusted the emerald pendant at her throat, a gift from Ethan to match her gown. From her position near the stage, she could see him in deep conversation with investors, his tailored suit and confident stance a far cry from the first impression she'd had of the serious lawyer who had arrived to help his brother. Nervous? Vanessa appeared beside her, elegant in burgundy silk. A little, Fiona admitted. Their relationship had evolved into something resembling mutual respect, if not quite friendship. The resolution of the Willingham scandal had cleared the air between them, especially after Daniel had publicly defended Fiona's honor. Don't be. Everyone here already believes in what you've created. Vanessa sipped her champagne. You've come a long way from fixing Thomas's science projects. I miss those days sometimes, Fiona said honestly. Vanessa's expression softened. The children still ask for you. Mrs. Winters is efficient, but she doesn't make science exciting the way you did. She hesitated. Perhaps you could still be part of their lives, even if not as their nanny. The olive branch wasn't lost on Fiona. I'd like that. The lights dimmed, signaling the start of the presentation. Daniel took the stage, commanding the room with his characteristic charisma. Ladies and gentlemen, 1 year ago, a remarkable woman showed me an invention in my own basement, an invention I nearly missed because I saw her only as the person who cared for my children. His gaze found Fiona in the crowd. That narrow vision almost cost me the most significant business opportunity of my career, and more importantly, almost lost our family someone who has become essential to us. He gestured for Fiona to join him on stage. As she walked up, applause filled the room. Pure Flow's technology has already provided clean water to over 50,000 people in regions where infrastructure is limited, Daniel continued. Tonight we launch our home filtration systems for the American market. But first, I want to introduce you to the genius behind it all, my partner and friend, Fiona Mercer. Taking the microphone, Fiona looked out at the sea of faces. She spotted Olivia and Thomas with Mrs. Winters near the back, waving enthusiastically. Ethan stood at the front, his expression filled with pride and something deeper. Thank you, Daniel. When I took a job as a nanny for the Parker family, I was desperate and defeated, convinced my education and dreams would never find an outlet. She smiled. I never imagined that bedtime stories and science experiments with 2 wonderful children would lead to this moment. She explained the technology in accessible terms, demonstrating how the self-regenerating filters worked and sharing stories from their pilot programs in Ghana, India, and Peru. The audience was captivated, especially when she revealed that a portion of every consumer unit sold would fund installations in underserved communities. After the presentation, as guests circulated through displays of their products, Ethan found her by the windows overlooking the city. You were magnificent, he said, handing her a fresh glass of champagne. "Everyone's talking about you." "About the technology," she corrected. "About both." He touched her hand lightly. "I have something to ask you." Her heart quickened. Their relationship had developed slowly, deliberately, both aware of the complexities involved. Working together while exploring their personal connection required careful boundaries, boundaries that had gradually softened with time. "I'm leaving Parker Media," he said, surprising her. "What? Why?" "I've accepted a position with the Environmental Law Institute. I'll be working with companies implementing sustainable technologies." His eyes held hers. Like pure flow, understanding dawned. "You're removing the potential conflict of interest. Among other things." He took a breath. "Fiona, when you came into our lives, everything changed. Not just the business, not just the technology, but us, all of us. You showed me that there's more to life than contracts and corporate law." "Ethan, let me finish." He took her hand fully now. "I'm not my brother's shadow anymore. I'm not just the Parker family lawyer. I'm becoming who I want to be, partly because you helped me see possibilities I'd forgotten existed." From across the room, Fiona could see Daniel watching them, a knowing smile on his face. Nearby, Vanessa was showing Olivia and Thomas the water demonstration. "So," Ethan continued, "I was wondering if you might consider another partnership. A personal one this time." Fiona felt tears threatening her carefully applied makeup. "Are you proposing?" He laughed softly. "Not yet. That would be rushing things, even for a Parker. But I am asking if you'll officially be part of my life, not just my family's business." She thought about the unlikely path that had led her here, from desperate job applications to late nights in a borrowed workshop to this glittering ballroom with her invention being celebrated. From the nanny no one took seriously to a respected inventor and businesswoman. "I would like that very much," she said, leaning forward to kiss him lightly. "It seems I have a talent for successful partnerships." Later, as the evening wound down, Fiona found herself sitting with the Parker children, who had begged for just 5 more minutes before being taken home. "Professor Fiona," Thomas asked sleepily, "are you going to marry Uncle Ethan?" Olivia elbowed him. "You're not supposed to ask that!" Fiona laughed. "We're just good friends right now, Thomas." "But you like him," the boy persisted. "And he likes you." "I heard Daddy tell Mommy that. Did he now?" Fiona raised an eyebrow at Daniel, who was approaching with Vanessa. "Children say the darndest things," Daniel said smoothly, "especially when they're overtired." Vanessa gathered the children. "Time to go home. Say goodnight to Ms. Mercer." "Good night, Professor Fiona," they chorused, hugging her tightly. As they walked away, Ethan rejoined her, slipping his arm around her waist. "They still love you," he observed. "The feeling is mutual." She leaned against him slightly. "Your family changed my life, and you changed ours." He looked down at her. "No longer just the nanny, are you?" "No," she agreed, watching the glittering lights of the city through the windows. "Now I'm so much more." The path from caretaker to creator had been complicated, painful at times, but standing here, surrounded by her success, accepted by the family that had once employed her, and falling in love with a man who saw her as an equal, Fiona knew that every step had been necessary. She was no longer just the nanny. She was herself, complete and whole, ready for whatever came next.